Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. And I was thinking this morning, sometimes time is of the essence. Some traders are all about getting those orders entered as efficiently and as quickly as possible. So I wanted to focus on that effort. We're going to be talking through 11 different ways that a trader might place their stock trade orders very quickly on Thinkorswim. So you might be thinking, well, 11 is kind of an odd number. Why are we doing 11? There are actually a lot more different ways that I could do this, but I did a similar video a long time ago, and I said 10 ways. And in the journey that I'm on of let's say self-improvement, let's try to be a little bit better. We're going to one up my last video. So this should be a good one. It's not going to be necessarily for everyone who wants to place trades very quickly. That's great, but there could be just investors out there just want to know, where can I place the orders? This is going to be helpful for you as well. So it should be something for just about everybody. Before we get into any of that, though, let me first of all say hello to everybody who's chatting in. Great to see all the familiar names. Great to see some new names already. But hello there, JDLMI, Ricebird, Sharon, Kevin, Janelle, Scott, Roe, Argerus, welcome. Great to have you. Scatterbrain, great to see you as well. Everybody, thanks for joining us week after week. We always appreciate your attendance and your contributions to these discussions. If you happen to be among those who are here for the very first time, great to have you on board. Welcome. If you're watching on the YouTube archive after the live stream is concluded, well, enjoy those recordings. That's a great way to watch these videos or these webcasts. But if you'd like to be here in the live stream audience, you're certainly invited. It'd be great to have you here. This is a Wednesday webcast series. We kick things off promptly at 2 Eastern time. Now, as a treat for my live stream audience members, my very good friend Barb Armstrong is already hanging out there in the chats. Barb's going to be keeping an eye on any questions that come in. If I can't get to those, she's going to help pick up the slack for me. We've been working together for years, so she brings a ton of experience to this. Thanks for having my back there, Barb. Barb and I would also like to issue an invitation to everybody watching to follow your favorite Schwab presenters on social media. You can follow Barb and me on X. So you can find Barb on X at Barb Armstrong CS. You can follow me on X at Cameron May CS. And you can also follow me on LinkedIn. Just go to linkedin.com/in/Cameron May CS. But let's get into this discussion. I think this is going to be a fun one. But before we do, of course, we need to pause to consider the risks associated with trading. They're real, so it's important. All corporate or issuer names and market data shown are for illustrative purposes only and are not a recommendation, offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research. There is no guarantee that execution of a stop order will be at or near the stop price, and investing involves risks, including a loss of principal. All right, so with that important stuff out of the way, let's set an agenda, pretty straightforward agenda. I want to introduce you to 11 different ways that a trader might quickly place their stock trade orders on Thinkorswim. We're going to start with some that are relatively familiar. I think most people are already going to know the first one or two or maybe three. Once we get beyond that, I think they're going to be revelations for just about everybody. Now, we have some pretty veteran users of Thinkorswim. What I'd like you to do as I go through this, of the 11 techniques that I show you, give me a little tally at the end. Tell me how many of these you recognized, and then I can extrapolate from that how many are new. All right, but let's go right to the Thinkorswim desktop. And let's suppose that our would-be trader here has determined they want to buy some shares of Pepsi. And let's just do it in possibly the way that most people find most intuitive. It's possibly the most familiar way to place an order, but it still can be quite quick on Thinkorswim. And that is, we just go to the trade tab. We want to place a trade. Let's go to trade. So we go to the trade tab. We can type in our symbol here if we know it. If we don't know it, we can start to just type in the security name, and the menu will propose the symbol that we might be looking for. But in any case, once we're on the trade tab with our symbol loaded, all we have to do is go to the ask price to place buy orders, or the bid price to place sell orders right here in the underlying field. So let's click the ask price, and really it can be just about this quick. As I click on that ask price, this brings up what could be a complete order. Now, it's customizable for quantity, it's customizable for order type, it's customizable for the price if we're using a limit order. But really with just that one click, we may be prepared to confirm and send an order. So by default, the way that I have my portfolio structured, this is going to create a trade for 100 shares of stock. That would be about a $14,000, $15,000 trade. And by default, it will submit this as a limit order. If we want to change that, just very quickly, we can change this to maybe a market order. If you're not familiar with limit, it just means I'm putting a cap on how much I want to spend on these shares. For example, maybe I don't want to go over 148.50. If we can buy below that, great. We just don't want to buy above that level. On the other hand, we might switch this to a market order, which just means I'll just pay whatever the market demands. It might be 148.27 right now. It might be more, it might be less. But how about for this example? Let's just do a quick trade of 10 example shares just to show that we could customize this, and click confirm and send. If it's your first time using Thinkorswim desktop, that's great. What I'm using here is trading software. It's available for free of charge from within your Schwab Online account. You just go to log in your Schwab Online account, click on the trade tab on that platform, and then click on Thinkorswim in the drop-down menu, and there'll be a blue button that'll guide you through the process of downloading. And then you just log into Thinkorswim using your Schwab login credentials. But in any case, how about we do this? Let's just show how quickly, now that I've demonstrated it, I'm just going to recap it just quickly. So starting from scratch, trade, enter your symbol, click on the ask price. There's our order screen. If I just want to change this to a market order, it's ready to go. It took me seconds. Here we might just make sure that this is what we want to do, buying 10 shares of Pepsi at the market price. There's no commission on this trade, but there can be on other types of trades. I'll just say sort of as a blanket statement for each of these orders that we place, there's not going to be commissions displayed, but there can be on some types of trades. And also, when using stop orders, it's not a guarantee of a specific execution price anyway. But let's send this order off. And we just bought 10 shares of Pepsi at $148.22. So that's how we buy. Buying can be quite quick right here on the trade tab. Selling can also be quite quick. In this case, instead of going to the ask price, hey, how much are you asking for those shares? Let me buy them from you. Well, we just click on the bid price. I want to sell some shares. How much will somebody bid for those shares? And we sell to the highest bidder. I mean, that's the way that I think about those two terms. So I'm just going to click on the bid price, and that creates a potentially complete sell order. So if we're doing this in the same account, we might use this order to sell those shares that we just purchased. We could sell those as a limit order. We could sell those as a market order, or choose from the other types in the menu. But really, this order is potentially ready to go. Just click confirm and send. It's a pretty quick process. Selling 10 shares of Pepsi at the market price, no commission here, and then we could send that order off. I'm not going to do that, but I did want to show this, that on the trade tab, using the ask and the bid prices is the first way that we might place our trades. Now, there's another thing that I think most users of Thinkorswim have discovered, and that is rather than left-clicking on the bid or the ask price, we can right-click on either of those, and we get the same menu. So if I right-click here, I get this menu. If I right-click on the bid, I get the same menu, but buy orders and sell orders can be used from the pop-up menu, but we can also construct custom orders. For example, let's say we want to buy Pepsi when it's trading right now around 148. Hopefully the investor is looking for Pepsi to be going up in value, but there's certainly the possibility it might go down. So let's say they've already drawn a mental line in the sand. They've decided, you know what, if this goes down to 145, I'm out of there. So that's what we call a stop order, or the concept is that we want to stop the bleeding on that trade. So with a quick right click on either the bid or the ask, we could put in a custom buy order with a stop attached. So let's do that. As I select that from the menu, this is very quickly retrieved a two-step order. One is to buy, the other one is actually to sell. So how about we modify this just quickly with the modification that I've demonstrated. Let's just do 10 shares. On the buy order, if we want another quick thing that can be done here to speed up the process, especially when we're entering multiple transactions on the same order ticket, see this little broken chain link right here? If we click on that, it repairs that link What that means is we want these two orders to be linked together in quantity. And then if I go on without even typing in the minus 10 here, if I go over here and I start to put in other elements, yeah, actually I should have linked that before I changed the first element. Anyway, this will just automatically populate across those quantities. But in any case, from here I can just quickly customize the buy order and the sell order. In this case, let's say we wanted to buy at the market price with its associated risks, but we wanted to stop to be in place down at $145. Now, unfortunately, Thinkorswim can't read our minds, so we do need to enter that. But let's make this a good till canceled, not just the sell order that expires at the end of the day, but a good till canceled order. And we're now prepared to click confirm and send. So it always takes me a moment to describe these processes. Really, it could just be much faster if I just close my mouth and load it up because we're now familiar with it. One thing that I might suggest before we move on to step number 3 for placing orders quickly is if we want to eliminate one of the steps of the customization of any type of order, let's say that our trader here, instead of trading in 100 share lots, maybe their preference is to buy 50 shares or trade 10 shares at a time like I've been demonstrating. We can set those personalized custom defaults just right up here under the gear icon. What we do is just go to our application settings and just go to our order defaults, and you'll see the default quantity is 100. We might set this to 10. And instead of going in increments of 100 from there, maybe we set that also to 10. In any case, if I apply that, the next time I go place an order, instead of coming up with 100 shares, it'll be 10 shares. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep mine at 100. But in any case, that is 2 ways. So step 1 are 2 different ways that we might place orders very quickly. Now, a third way, let's see, Zipporah says, kindly show how to use a place an order for covered calls. Well, I'm gonna be doing stock trading in this discussion. I think maybe in a future webcast, I might do options. I've certainly talked about placing options orders, and I place covered calls all the time. I actually have a Monday webcast series. It's called Covered Calls and Short Puts. So you may want to go check that out. So here's a quick heads up for those that might be new to Schwab coaching. We have a YouTube channel, and in that YouTube channel, we keep an extensive archive of previous webcasts. So if you haven't done this already, make sure that you've subscribed to our channel. You can just pop down below the video right now, click on the subscribe button. But this on the Trader Talks Schwab coaching webcasts, if you go to our homepage, you can join our live streams like this one right now. You can also find playlists of previously concluded webcasts. So for example, if I go to playlists, I can go right down to the bottom. We got a bunch of them. But if I go right down to the bottom, you'll find this series, Getting Started with Thinkorswim. I can find the whole playlist right there. Or if I go up just a little bit further, let's see, where is my, you notice how many we have? There's covered calls and short puts. So if you want to see those sorts of things, you might want to check that out. All right, but in any case, back to our trade tab. And I want to talk about how sometimes a trader wants to be quick, but they don't have the convenience of being at their computer at the moment they want the trade to go in. Here's what I'm talking about. Pepsi, we've talked about placing buy and sell orders, placing orders to buy and even have a sell order attached. Well, let's go to the chart, and there might be something that stands out here to regular users of Thinkorswim charts. There is a Pepsi earnings announcement right around the corner. Today's January the 28th. On February 3rd, there's an earnings announcement. Let's say that our trader would like to purchase Pepsi. Maybe they see that it appears to be making higher highs and higher lows. Maybe they think it's going to go back up here to previous highs where we've touched several times over the course of the year. But in any case, maybe they don't want the volatility associated commonly with earnings. So maybe they want to buy after that earnings announcement. So it looks like that earnings call comes in, the announcement is February 3rd at 7:15 Central Time. That's important because I'm not broadcasting from Central Time. I'm Mountain Time. So that would be 6:15 local time. So maybe our trader wants to wait until open of business on the 3rd to get in once the earnings announcement has happened. How might they do that? Well, they can actually place an order to be entered, but not until a specified time. Let's do that. Let's click on our ask price and let's put in our 10 share purchase. But I want to do this. I'm going to go to, first of all, let's set this as a market order. I'm going to go to the order conditions. Now, if you haven't done this before, this one's a little bit easy to miss because all the way over to the right side of our green order bar, there's a hidden gear. As I point right there at that little box, you'll see that gear appears. So I'm going to click on the little gear icon there. And a gear means that we can customize things here. And here we're going to customize the timing of the trade. So here's what we'd like to do. We want to buy shares of Pepsi at the market price, but not today's market price. Instead, we're going to do a future market price. So we're going to submit this order on, we said earnings was February 3rd, at what time? Well, it could be, let's say, right at open. That would be locally for us in the mountains of Utah, markets open at 7:30. So we might say 07:30, 00. Now, if this were in the afternoon, you put in sort of a military time. So if it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it might be 13:30, 00. Does that make sense? But this is local time. And now we're ready to save that order. And as I click confirm and send, we're putting in an order to buy Pepsi at the market, but not today's market. We're going to submit this order on February 3rd after that earnings announcement. So this is a way to be quick when we're not even there to be quick. So I could send that order off. I'm not going to. And of course, again, just to reiterate, there's no commission on this. And with that earlier stop order that we talked about, a stop is not a guarantee of execution at a specific price. Anyway, so there we go. There's order technique number 3. Let's delete that one. And let's talk about using, now I think up to this point, everybody's been comfortable because of course you can trade on something called the trade tab. That makes sense. But actually, there are embedded ways to trade all over the Thinkorswim platform. Really, just keep your eye out. If there's a symbol or if there's a quote, a bid or an ask or a last price, it's probably tradable right from there. So let's go to our monitor tab. And I wanted to show a way that we might trade right from here. So you'll notice as we go to our monitor page, this is where we go to monitor the progress of existing positions. We have an existing position down here in Pepsi. We just bought it, 10 shares of Pepsi. Well, let's say that our trader has immediate buyer's remorse and they want to close this out. Well, they could go to the trade tab and place a sell order through how we've demonstrated already, or we can just right click on the existing position. So right click on Pepsi. Now notice I can do that here. I can do that here. In any case, just anywhere along this bar where our position is, right click on it and create a closing order right from that menu. A handy thing about doing it this way, yes, it's fast, but also it makes sure that we're entering the order for the correct number of shares if we're trying to flatten the entire position. So notice in the side menu, there's an order to sell 10 shares of Pepsi at a limit order by default. So let me just click on that, and that just takes us over to our trade tab with that order loaded up for the correct quantity on the correct stock. And now we can just modify it as we see fit. We can put it in a limit order. I'm going to switch this one back to a market order. How about we exit this trade? Let me just click confirm and send. I'm going to sell these 10 shares of Pepsi to close this position, no commission again, send that order off, and in just a moment, we'll get a confirmation here. We just sold those 10 shares of Pepsi at 148.11. So there's 4 different ways that we might trade, and not every way is going to be on the trade tab. As a matter of fact, for the rest of this discussion, we're not going to be revisiting the trade tab, at least not by default. So let's now move over to the charts. Sometimes a trader spots something happening on a chart and they want to act right away. So first thing that we need to know is let's maybe should we borrow another stock? How about we look at TXN? Texas Instruments actually just had its earnings announcement. Seems like there's an early positive reaction to that. Let's say that our trader wants to buy right away, hopefully for the stock to continue to climb. But let's also say that they note if price reverses back down to today's lows, starts to go into that gap, what do you technicians know about an assumption, a common assumption, if price falls back into a gap? The assumption might be that the gap is going to fail. It may be a reversal of price. Now, it's not a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee of what's going to happen next with price. But let's just say that our trader's plan is let's buy right now as quickly as we can. But let's also put in a stop order below 204. How about at 202, where prices maybe more convincingly entered that gap? How do we do that? We could go over to the trade tab, start to build an order, or we can just right click on our chart and let's put in that custom buy order again. Notice this is giving us the same menu now that we're starting to become familiar with from that trade tab. We can put on our custom buy order with a stop. So let's do maybe 100 shares here. Let's actually do this. Let's repair that chain link. Last time I started to make the change to the quantity and then repaired the link. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, so click the chain link. So it links up the buy order and sell order. Then we can come over here and start entering our preferred order types. Notice our sell quantity has automatically changed to match the buy quantity. Let's put in our stop order, good till canceled, down there at 202. But the point here being quick access. It doesn't even take us over to the trade tab. It keeps us right here on the chart tab. We can still see our chart. We can check the logic of our trade. Oh, that's right. We wanted to put in our stop down just below the 204 level. And we can click confirm and send. Buying 10 shares of TXN, the market price. Market orders carry risks that we might not be thrilled with the price that we pay. We have a stop order at 202. Stops are not guaranteed that we'll sell at that trigger price that we've selected. It could be for less. But we're ready to go. And I could just send that order off, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to be trading in and out and in and out and in and out, but I will show how we can place the trade. And when we're still looking at the order confirmation dialog box after clicking confirm and send, we haven't sent the order off. So we're not committed to anything yet. But there is a fifth way. We're on number 5. Yep, 5 ways to quickly place trades on Thinkorswim. Now, that's a nice little feature of Thinkorswim, but it is hidden. And it remains hidden as we move from one chart to the next. If I were to go to a Pepsi chart, I'd still have to right click on that chart to bring up that menu. And for some traders, they prefer to just have big red and green sell and buy buttons right there at the top of their screen, or maybe off the right, possibly down at the bottom. We can actually have those displayed just by using these, this menu off to the right. Ricebird says Thinkorswim is so flexible. Yeah, Ricebird. This is really designed with that trader in mind for when they have a trade idea, if time is of the essence, if they want speed, speed is available. Now, even for an investor, though, it can be nice just to be able to know that we don't always have to go back to the trade tab. Maybe we just get things done right here on the chart screen or Market Watch or Scan, or I'm kind of giving things away here. But look at what we can do here. We can just click on this little trade tab off to the right, and it actually creates, maybe this is kind of more traditional buy and sell buttons. Buy market means I want to place a buy market order. Sell market means I want to place a sell market order. If we've started placing a trade, but we want to customize it, we can edit that trade. And that just brings up the traditional bar. But this is designed with speed in mind, and market orders tend to offer among the fastest ways to get things entered and potentially filled. So that's the default here. But just be aware, we can create this up here. If we move around from symbol to symbol, our chart changes, but the functionality remains available right up there at the top. Let's go back here to TXN. And To remove this, all we need to do is click the little button again. But it doesn't always have to be at the top. Some traders prefer different configurations. So if we select, say, buttons, it'll put those over to the right. Or if we select the dashboard feature down below, it puts big buy and sell buttons down at the bottom. So nifty little feature there for our chartists who like to have access to those trade features right there on the charts, and they prefer to be flexible with where they position those trade features. So that's technique number 6, our 6th way to place trades quickly. The next 3 are going to be in the gadgets bar. Let's move over here to gadgets. The gadgets is this field off to the left that we can leave it there and keep it static for quick access as we move around to other areas of the platform. So for example, let's say that we're looking at, I don't know, this just by default came to our fundamentals page. I'll just leave it there. That's okay. But in the left column, we can access a quick chart. Maybe I want to look at TEX or TXN. We can just type in the symbol there. I'm just going to leave that there. But we can see a little miniature chart here. Maybe I'm looking at its fundamentals over here, and I decide, yeah, let's buy it. I could go to the Trade tab, or I can just right-click, just like on the big chart, we can right-click on the little chart. And there's that menu of orders. All right. Now that's one of our gadget features. I should just say very broadly, if we're using a gadget feature and it has a symbol or it has a quote, we can probably trade from there. So to illustrate that, let's look at a watch list. Let's look at maybe a different stock. So what if we're looking at our charts and we've been examining Arista Networks? So here's ANET. Well, we can trade from this. First of all, we can just click on a displayed price. You'll notice here, the current quote, 149.76. If I click on that, and maybe I've moved off to somewhere on the platform. Let's go back to that. Let's see, where were we? Yeah, we were on the analyze. That's where we're on the fundamentals. But if I'm over here and I click on the quote here, it brings up an order ticket, fully customizable, just like the other ones. I can customize that and confirm and send a trade. Or since there's a symbol, we can right click on the symbol and we have access to that menu again. So that gadgets, we can right click on a chart, we can right click on a symbol, we can left click on a quote. All of those give us access to trading functions. So yeah, it's built in all over the platform. And really, I'm just going to go with that same concept and just illustrate that it can be found elsewhere. So for example, if we're over here on our Market Watch, maybe we're using the quotes columns because they allow us access to extensive lists of columns for all sorts of things, fundamental data, technical data, quote data. And you'll notice here, there are symbols, there are quotes. So we have the bid, we have the ask. Those all provide access to placing trades. So we can right click on a symbol. We can click on, let's say we want to place a sell order on, which one should we pick on? Who knows? How about just Amcor right at the top? Just click on the bid price, it creates a sell order. If we click on the ask price, it creates a buy order, just like on the Trade tab. Now, one final thing I wanted to show you is that even if we've built a search, let me go to my scan. I didn't intend to go to charts. Let's go to scan. And if you've been attending any of my other webcasts, I actually have a webcast series that's called Investing in Dividend Stocks. Now, in that series, we built a scan to look for something that I call the dividend working class of stocks. So basically, it's stocks that are typical. They're kind of like dividend aristocrats, but they're outside of the S&P 500. So we built a little basic scan here. And if I run that scan, I get a list of results here. And let's say I wanted to buy one of these stocks. Well, guess what? There's a symbol right here There are quotes over here for the bid and the ask price, and those are tradable. They allow access to those order tickets. So if I click on a bid price, it creates a sell order. If I click on an ask price, it creates a buy order. There we go. Well, guys, believe it or not, that is the 11th way for us to place orders on Thinkorswim. And I've pretty much scratched the surface here. I could have gone through a lot of other tools and techniques, but I think what I've done is opened up the eyes to maybe the new user of Thinkorswim, or even the veteran, as a little bit of a reminder that if we're buried somewhere in the catacombs of Thinkorswim and we find something that's intriguing to the trader and that trader wants to place a trade, well, if there is a chart or a symbol or a quote, we can probably place that order right from there. All right, so everybody, I hope this has been an interesting discussion for you. I was really looking forward to this one. We'll package this one up and call it a day, but we have lots of other, we have more webcasts on the docket for today. I want you to go enjoy those, but we have lots of other resources available to you through Schwab Education. So we've discussed one. First of all, if you're new to Schwab Coaching, make sure that you have subscribed to our Trader Talks channel. Just as I mentioned before, it only takes a second, doesn't cost anything. You just click on the subscribe button down below, and that's where you can access our live streams, and you can find the playlists of previous webcasts. Now, another thing that I want to suggest, Barb would certainly suggest this as well, is that you follow us on social media. Barb and I are both very active on social media. So if you'd like to follow Barb or me, you can follow us on X. Find Barb at, her handle on X is at Barb Armstrong CS. My handle on X is at Cameron May CS. And a big advantage of social media is that this is where I am when the camera's not on. So if you're wondering, how do I contact Cameron in between the live stream? This is how you do it. So I make frequent posts on X. And if you reply to those posts, so for example, this one right here, where I was asking my followers, what do you think about this reaction by shareholders to Boeing's earnings announcement? Do you think this support level around 240 is likely to hold, or do you think we're going to break down through that, maybe go down to more distant price floors? So people are commenting there. I reply right back to those comments, allows for interesting discussions and interaction in between the live streams. Now, you can also follow and communicate with me on LinkedIn. Now, this has only been available for a couple of months. I've been on X for years, and I have lots of followers there, about 18,000, I think. On LinkedIn, just a couple hundred so far. But I do post on LinkedIn. Typically, my posts are longer because I don't have that character limit. But if you reply to one of my posts right here as a comment, I just try to reply right back to you as well. Every once in a while, I'll admit, somebody says something, it's a little bit too off topic for me. It's a little bit too politically sensitive. Those sorts of things, you know, the sorts of things you kind of have to dance around. I won't reply to those, but for the vast majority of comments, I do reply. So thanks for giving me a follow there. Everybody, thanks for giving me your time today. As I'm looking over here in the YouTube window, I see about 165 people still watching. And how many have clicked that thumbs up? 41 have already clicked the thumbs up or the like button. That is very appreciated, more than you know. First of all, clicking the like button tells the presenter they've done a good job, which is great. Thank you. Appreciate the applause. But it also tells YouTube that this was a good video. Maybe other people should watch it, so they should share it with other people. It helps, it gives us a boost in the YouTube algorithm, helps more people find these discussions. So thanks for doing that. It's always helpful. Barb, thanks for helping out in chat. Up next, trading index options with Ben Watson. Go enjoy that. But everybody, thanks for giving me your time today. I'll look for you in a future webcast. I'll also look for you on social media, on X and on LinkedIn. But whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.